Space had a particular sound when everything was going terribly wrong, at least to me. It was the sound of my cockpit alarm screaming like a choir of angry toasters, and the hull complaining in metallic grunts as I dodged plasma fire with the grace of a drunk meteor. I kept telling myself I was just a cargo pilot, not a hero, not a soldier, not even someone confident about which button lowered the landing gear. Yet there I was, swerving through a battlefield big enough to make gods flinch. My ship, the Rust Bucket of Glory, a name given by someone with a cruel sense of humor, lurched sideways as a Dominion cruiser fired so close that my eyebrows felt personally targeted. I shouted at the console because sometimes that makes machinery behave. It didn't. The ship coughed smoke at me in response. That's when I saw it, a tiny, failing escape pod drifting through the chaos, spinning end over end like someone had thrown it out a window of the universe. Its beacon flickered with an energy signature I didn't recognize, which usually meant one thing: this will definitely become my problem. My brain yelled, "Keep flying, Kale," but my hands, traitors that they are, steered toward the pod. I latched onto it with the docking clamps, praying the clamps wouldn't snap off and fling the pod into a sun. The moment it sealed to the airlock, the lights across my ship flickered. Something inside the pod was draining power, or panicking, or both. When I opened the pod, I expected a corpse, or a bomb, or possibly a corpse holding a bomb. Instead, I found her. She looked like a human woman, but with an otherworldly symmetry that made my brain stop for a moment, like it needed to reboot. Long dark hair floated around her in the half-dead pod gravity, her skin faintly luminescent, and her ears, long, delicate, tapering to fine points that twitched as if listening to thoughts I hadn't said yet. Even unconscious, she looked annoyed. Another universal trait, apparently. I carried her to the medbay with the care of someone who is deeply aware they might accidentally offend a new species and get vaporized by a diplomatic incident. After a few minutes, she gasped awake, sat up, and immediately pointed at me. "You," she declared, voice sharp, musical, and definitely accusing. "What have you done?" "I saved you," I said, possibly, I think. "It's early in the process." She blinked, her ears tilting back in a way that was either a sign of gratitude or preparation to bite. "You removed me from my escape pod without permission." "You were dying," I reminded her. "Still permission." I sighed and leaned against the med console, which sparked in protest. "Well, next time you're unconscious, be sure to fill out the appropriate forms." Her eyes narrowed. "Humans are strange." "Thank you," I said. "I work hard at it." Explaining my ship to her took longer than expected because she kept pointing out everything wrong with it. The wiring, primitive. The engines, a hazard to existence. My piloting skills, statistically improbable in their recklessness. She examined the navigation panel, tapped it twice, and the entire system suddenly displayed the correct coordinates without glitching. I had been fighting that glitch for 6 months. "What did you do?" I asked, amazed. "I showed the machine kindness," she said, dead serious. "You rewired half my panel, didn't you?" "Yes," she admitted, and her ears twitched in a way that looked suspiciously like amusement. "We tried to escape the war zone, though 'tried' might be generous." The Dominion cruiser seemed personally offended that my sad-looking ship refused to explode. Energy blasts lit up the dark like angry suns, and I dove between wreckage and drifting debris while she muttered calculations so fast I couldn't decipher them. "Turn left," she said suddenly. "That's not a direction," I replied. "Space doesn't have left." "Your ship has left, human. Use it." I jerked the controls and narrowly missed a chunk of what used to be someone's battleship. She gripped the console, ears flicking wildly with every maneuver. "This is exhilarating," she admitted breathlessly. "That's one word for it," I said, trying not to scream again. We burst through the last line of ships and into a strange stretch of space where gravity rippled in lazy spirals, bending starlight into shimmering trails. Massive translucent creatures drifted in the void, their bodies glowing softly, like spacefish that hadn't been told they weren't supposed to exist. "What is this place?" I whispered. "A sanctuary region," she murmured. "Hidden, ancient, my people discovered it long ago." I glanced at her, noting the sudden softness in her expression, the way her long ears relaxed. She didn't look like the sharp, fierce woman who had scolded me for breathing incorrectly. She looked grateful. "By the way," I said, pointing at the faint scar along her arm, "you never told me your name." She hesitated, then looked at me with those luminous eyes. "Lithara of the Alarin." I tried the name. It felt heavier than a simple introduction should. "And you, human." "Kael'Durin, pilot, professional disaster." Her lips curved in a small, reluctant smile. A strange human indeed. And for the first time since the alarm started screaming, I felt something unexpected settle inside my chest. Not fear, not confusion, but the sense that saving her was about to change everything, in ways I couldn't yet imagine. The sanctuary region looked peaceful enough from the outside. Glowing nebula curtains, drifting cosmic creatures, calm gravitational tides. But the moment I tried to fly in a straight line, the ship twisted 90 degrees and performed what I can only describe as an accidental cosmic somersault. Lithara braced herself against the console with a grimace. "Your ship is resisting the flow," she said. "My ship resists everything," I replied, "including me." She touched the navigation panel with long, elegant fingers, whispering something in her language. The console responded with a pleasant chime, which was suspicious, because nothing on my ship had ever made a pleasant sound in its entire miserable existence. "Did you just sweet-talk my ship?" "I encouraged it," she said, ears tilting with subtle pride. "Machines appreciate guidance." "Well, mine appreciates causing me pain," I said, rubbing my forehead after the last unnatural twist. We sailed deeper into the hidden region, following the soft gravitational ripples Lithara seemed to understand instinctively. She moved with quiet grace, her long ears adjusting like satellite dishes catching starlight. Meanwhile, I tripped over a toolbox, a cable, and my own feet, 3 separate incidents. She looked back. "Are you injured?" "No, this is my natural level of coordination." Her eyes softened the tiniest bit. "Unfortunate." The sanctuary opened into a vast cosmic basin where asteroids floated lazily and crystalline structures glowed from within, suspended like ornaments hung by unseen threads. Lithara guided me toward a cluster of them. "My people maintain listening posts here," she explained. "Silent stations, old ones, they might still operate." "Define might," I said. She didn't answer, never a good sign. A sleek vessel shaped like an elongated teardrop hovered ahead, definitely Alarin design. As we approached, it activated a scanning beam that swept over my ship with an accusatory hum. Then the communication channel crackled. "Unidentified human vessel," a stern voice said. "Explain your presence." I glanced at Lithara. "Please tell them I'm not kidnapping you." She stepped forward. "This human saved my life. He travels with me by my choice." There was a long silence. Then a slightly less stern voice said, "Understood. Permission granted." The teardrop vessel escorted us to a floating platform marked with glowing, shifting runes. As we landed, 2 Ilaran officers approached, tall, graceful, and equipped with ears long enough to shame elegant sculptures. Next to them, I looked like someone who had been dragged backward through a malfunctioning teleporter. One officer studied me. "So this is the human." "That's me," I said. "Kael'Durin, professional disaster part-time pilot." Lithara pressed her fingers to her forehead. "Please ignore him." They led us into the crystalline station, its hallways curved, its walls translucent, glowing with soft blues and purples. Memory shards floated in alcoves, each rotating gently as if dreaming. "This place is incredible," I whispered. "It holds recorded knowledge," Lithara said. "Thoughts, experiences, equations. Every shard is a piece of someone's mind." I passed one shard that chimed as I walked by. "It likes you," Lithara said, amused. "Great," I said. "At least something in this galaxy does." We reached a chamber carved inside a crystalline hollow. Elder Ilaran stood in a circle, their robes shimmering like liquid constellations. They studied me with unreadable expressions, except their ears twitched, which seemed like the Ilaran version of whispering behind someone's back. One elder stepped forward. "Lithara, daughter of Saraith, you carry a human with you. Explain." "He rescued me," she said calmly, "and I owe him my life." The elders exchanged glances. I felt the weight of their scrutiny like I'd been put under a microscope. Another elder spoke. "Do you understand what this means, human?" "I barely understand my taxes," I said, "so probably not." A faint stir of confusion rippled through their group. Lithara inhaled sharply, and her ears lowered with something like worry. "Kale, they refer to the life bond." "That sounds romantic," I said hopefully. "It isn't," she muttered. The elders began a low, resonant chant. The walls glowed brighter in response, the memory shards drifting into the chamber to form a shimmering halo above us. One shard hovered just inches from me and projected symbols I could not read. Lithara stepped closer, lowering her voice. "By saving me in the way you did, removing me from the pod yourself, you fulfilled an ancient binding ritual among my people." I blinked. "Wait, I accidentally married you." Her cheeks tinted a soft luminescent blush. "Not married, bound, potentially, if the elders confirm compatibility." "Compatibility," I echoed, "like emotionally." "Genetically," she corrected. "And spiritually, and personally." "Well," I said, clearing my throat, "that's not intimidating at all." She looked away. "I did not intend for this to happen." "Good," I said, "because if you'd planned it, your sales pitch was terrible." One of the elders raised a hand, silencing us. "We sense a convergence, but more must be examined." Great examinations. My favorite. We were dismissed to a waiting chamber filled with floating orbs that emitted relaxing chimes. At least they were supposed to be relaxing. One orb kept bonking into my shoulder like it was malfunctioning or trying to communicate. Lithara sat beside me, unusually quiet. Her ears drooped slightly, something I interpreted as worry. "This life bond thing," I said, "is it bad?" "It is complicated," she replied softly. "For my people it is sacred, rare and binding." "And for you?" Her eyes met mine, luminous and conflicted. "For me, it is frightening." I exhaled slowly. "Yeah, I get that." But despite the shock, despite the strange cosmic rituals and glowing runes, something inside me settled with an unnerving certainty. Whatever this bond was, whatever it meant, I didn't want to run from it. And when she glanced at me, her ears tilting just slightly in that way that meant hope, I wondered if running was no longer something either of us could do. The elders kept us waiting long enough for me to reorganize my entire sense of identity, alphabetize my regrets, and develop a deep emotional bond with the tea dispenser in the corner. Lithara sat beside me in careful silence, her long ears angled downward in a way that made my chest tighten. She wasn't afraid for herself, that much I had learned. She was afraid for what this meant for us. When the crystalline door finally opened, the elders entered with solemn faces and floaty robes that made them look like disappointed comets. The lead elder lifted a crystal shard that glowed in soft, pulsing intervals. "We have concluded our examination," he said. "The convergence between you is confirmed. You share compatibility on multiple layers, biological, cognitive, and fate-linked." I cleared my throat. "Fate-linked. Is that like romantic destiny?" "No," the elder said, "it is worse." Lithara shut her eyes briefly. I muttered, "Great, can't wait." The elder continued. "The bond is active. Its completion, however, requires mutual acceptance. You must choose." Then they left us alone again with the emotional weight of 10 galaxies pressing on my shoulders. Lithara turned to me. "Kale, I did not want this forced upon you." "I know," I said, "but it wasn't forced. I chose to pull you from that pod." She looked down. "You did not know the consequences." "True, but if I had known you, de-lecture me about engine maintenance for the rest of my life, I might have hesitated." Her ears shot up. "Kale." "Kidding," I said gently. Mostly. A flicker of a smile crossed her lips, tiny but real, then it faded. There is more. My people, we face a crisis. Our genetics have been weakening for generations. The war only worsened it. A compatible bond like ours could help preserve the lineage. So you need me, I said softly. Yes, she whispered. But not just for this. I need you because you saved me, and because you are the first being who has ever argued with me without fear. That doesn't sound like a compliment. It is, she said, and her voice trembled in a way I had not heard before. I have grown used to people treating me like a symbol. You treat me like Lithara. Her ears lowered in a gentle arc, vulnerability made visible. I stepped closer. And you treat me like someone worth listening to. That's new. Before she could respond, the chamber shook with a deep, resonant thrum. Alarms blared, a sound I knew far too well. A hollow screen blinked on, displaying Dominion ships emerging from warp just outside the sanctuary region. A full fleet. Enough firepower to turn this ancient refuge into cosmic confetti. Lithara's face hardened. They followed us. Of course they did, I said. My life is basically a magnet for disaster. We ran to the docking platform where my ship waited, looking like a battered tin can beside the elegant Alaran craft. The officers tried to coordinate defenses, but the sanctuary's ancient shields weren't built for modern war. Kale, Lithara said, gripping my arm, you know the currents of this region now. You were reckless enough to survive them once. You can navigate a path no Dominion ship can follow. Ah yes, I said. The famous Kale during piloting style, panic and pray. It seems to work, she said, and her ears twitched with what I suspected was encouragement. We boarded my ship, launched into the swirling gravimetric tides, and the Dominion fleet opened fire behind us. Lithara slid into the co-pilot chair, fingers dancing over the controls, adjusting the gravitational harmonics like a musician tuning a cosmic instrument. Left, she said. Space still doesn't have. Kale. I turned left. We dove through spiraling maws of distorted gravity, plasma beams bending into glowing arcs around us. Cosmic creatures stirred, trailing luminescent bodies as they drifted away from the chaos. The ship groaned but held. The currents twisted but relented. It was chaos, but it was our chaos. Lithara synced our engines to the sanctuary's pulse, guiding us through a shifting corridor of light. Behind us, the Dominion ships attempted to follow, and were promptly flung apart by the twisting gravitational tides, scattering like startled insects. We did it, I yelled. Yes, she said, breathless. We did. For a long moment, only the soft chime of the instruments and the glowing horizon of the sanctuary surrounded us. Then Lithara turned to me, eyes glowing softly, ears relaxing in a way I'd learned meant honesty approaching. You asked earlier, she said quietly, if this bond is bad. I nodded. It is only bad, she whispered, if one heart does not move toward the other. I stared at her, the fierce, brilliant woman who had crashed into my life like a meteor with impeccable hair. The one who challenged me, changed me, and somehow made me want to be more than the drifting nobody I'd been. My heart's moving, I said, voice rougher than I expected. Probably in a clumsy human way, but definitely toward you. Her breath caught. Her long ears dipped toward me like petals drawn to warmth. Then the bond, she said, is ours to complete. She reached out and I took her hand, feeling the hum of her pulse and the pull of something ancient, something chosen. When we returned to the Alaran, peace had already begun to ripple across their systems. The Dominion retreat had sparked negotiations. Lithara and I stood before the elders again, not as strangers tied by accident, but as partners stepping into something new. This time, when the elder asked if we accepted the bond, we answered together. And as the crystal shards lit around us, weaving their glow into a single unified light, I realized I had grown into someone different, someone willing to choose a future not because it was safe, but because it was meaningful. Lithara's hand tightened around mine. Her ears brushed my cheek like a whispered promise. Whatever came next, we would face it together. And for the first time in my wandering, scrambling, disaster-prone life,